have a little bit of kismet, and my Minnesota Wild that have totally struggled lately and really all season. They finally did what I think a lot of people were suspecting was coming soon, and they have fired Dean Evason. He's been there for the last 4 years, officially took over on an interim basis in February of 2020, and the team has failed to win a playoff round in about 10 years now. So they're looking to make a change and try to salvage this season before it spins out of control. Here's what the GM, Bill Guerin, said on the decision. Bob Wood's also gone, by the way. Dean did an excellent job during his tenure with the Wild, especially as head coach of our team. I am very thankful for his hard work and dedication to our organization. I would also like to thank Bob for his hard work during his time as an assistant coach with the Wild. I wish Dean, Bob, and their families all the best in the future. Johnny, instant take.
Not surprising, because they're floundering, and I think the expectation for Minnesota, because of the standard they've set, you mentioned they haven't won a round, but they keep getting to the playoffs, and I think they were good the last several years under Dean Evason. They expect it to be good again, so to see it go as poorly as it has so far is troublesome. But you look at what they've done under Evason, they've been really, really good, and we're going to get into some of the reasons why this happened, but the salary cap and the buyouts of Parise and Suter loom over everything that is happening with the Minnesota Wild right now. When you have $15 million of dead money on your roster, making the playoffs year over year is a heck of an accomplishment. So I'm not surprised, but you know, I think generally speaking, Dean Evason has done a pretty good job so far. If you take $15 million, EJ, off of any team in the NHL, are they going to make the playoffs?
Very
few.
Very, very difficult, no question about it. It was a challenge. I think it was a move that Billy Guerin had to make at the time, but it came with consequences, and it came with some pain that they've kind of been able to mitigate. To your point, they've been able to be a 100-point team. I think they've gotten by with, you know, some shrewd moves, some really good goaltending. Gustafsson was excellent last year, hasn't been as good this year, so that's part of the problem. Kaprizov has had some struggles of late, particularly 5-on-5, and they just can ill afford. They have a thin margin of error, like a lot of teams in this league. And so that's part of the problem. But, you know, when I look at Dean Evason's tenure in Minnesota, I mean, I look at the 2 playoff years that they were in the last couple of years, and I'll be honest, and I've said it before on the show, I just wasn't impressed. I don't think he handled that goaltending situation 2 years ago when it was Talbot and Fleury, and there was confusion there. And then I thought last year, his team was taking a bunch of penalties, and rather than address his team and remedy that problem, he was railing about the officials, which I think distracts the team, and they ended up getting bumped out by Dallas. So for me, I wasn't overly impressed in those circumstances. I don't think Billy Guerin wanted to do this, and he waited a little bit of time, but in the end, I think it was the move that he had to make.
And what's interesting, and you know Dean Evason, you've been around him, he's very intense.
And
that's okay. When you're winning, that kind of intensity would be tiring at times, but when you're winning, you sort of deal with it better. You start losing, and you have a coach who is just wired to grind and be hard and abrasive. It makes it even harder to kind of rebound. So I just wonder, like, personality-wise, it's tough when you're wired the way he is and the team starts to lose. But I think the main reason why Dean Evason doesn't have a job today is you said it. It's the goaltenders.
Well, haven't been
and I'm not blaming the goalies, but they both played so well last year. You look at the numbers from last year. 919 to an 878. That's basically 1 out of every 30 shots more is going in. So that's 1 extra goal per game more. 1.21 more per game going in. So some of that's on the defense, but some of that's just on the goaltenders not playing well. And what's the old, show me a good goalie, I'll show you a good coach? Show me bad goaltending, I'll show you a coach who's unemployed. Like, that's how it works. So, you know, that is a big part of the discussion for Dean Evason as well. And now I just look, well, they have 14 points. Trying to rally this team the way that they're put together, the talent that they have.
That was my next question, is do they still have a chance to make the playoffs? We're, you know, past the Thanksgiving mark. We're 20 games into the season. You mentioned they only have 14 points. Is it already too late? EJ.
It might well be. I think, you know, we were talking off air today. Our colleague Mike Kelly talked about in the West this year, when you do the math, it looks like it'll be a lower number threshold to get into that 8th spot. So that plays in favor of teams that were chasing it, who've had bad starts. But that said, the Edmonton Oilers, I mean, they're in that mix of teams trying to get there. Nashville has won 5 in a row. They're still outside of the playoff chase. They got a bunch of teams to jump. And when I still look at it, if the new coach comes in and the goaltending isn't good any better, that's not going to help. And this is a team that is built on the wing because they are really thin in the middle of the ice, and they haven't been able to fix that or address it because of the cap situation.
And if Kaprizov doesn't kind of get healthy and get right, especially 5-on-5, where he was one of the best in the league 2 years ago, a little bit worse off last year, much slower this year. No, the answer is no. It is too late. Unless those things right themselves. And I'm not sure a new coach is going to get Kaprizov fully healthy.
Right.
I'm not sure a new coach is going to go in and teach Gustafsson and Fleury how to stop pucks. Like, that is kind of the way it is. You see the numbers like, well, what is 9 points to St. Louis? It's not that much. Or I guess would it be 7 points to Seattle?
Yeah.
The other team that's in.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's 7
4 more
points,
wins over
4 more wins.
time.
It's 6 more teams that you're going to have to leap over.
Yep.
It's going to be really, really hard for a team that has played themselves to this spot.
Yeah.
And there's no miracle cure coming. It's not like they were missing one player that's going to come back and say, okay, now we're a different team.
Right. And I would have said maybe 2 weeks ago that was Jared Spurgeon. And that once he comes back, you know, this goal differential will sort itself out. And it hasn't been the case right now. In fact, only San Jose and Chicago have worse goal differentials. I know you're not big on the goal differential department, right? Entirely.
No. Goal differential is a general broad picture of a team's quality.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.